Hello, BookTube. Today I want to discuss some possible reading plans I have for December. I've been thinking about what I could be reading in December for a few weeks now, even though there's still a good chunk of November left to go. And one of my ideas was to do some Bell redemptions. So if you've been following along with my channel for any length of time, you will know that I bail heavily. And this year has been insane with the number of bells that I have done. Even though I have read a tremendous amount and enjoyed most a good chunk of it, it's also been a banner year for bailing. But I don't necessarily always let that bail stand. I do like to have a second or a third or a fourth go at a book before I eventually go, okay, this book just is not for me, because there are any number of circumstances that could cause me to bail rather than just a crappy book. And sometimes, if it is one of those other circumstances, putting the book down and coming back to it weeks, months, maybe even years later might help things along. And it has. There have been a number of books that I initially bailed on that coming back to it I either liked, maybe I didn't necessarily love, or really, really loved. So there's always that possibility, and that's always fun to see a bail redemption achieved. Although very often it is a bail redemption rejected. So anyway, so I initially started with a list of 4 books that has since ballooned to about 8. Yeah, it's expected with me, but anyway. So here are some possibilities for bail redemption. The first up is one that it's been a while since I had to go at it. Let me check when it was published. Yeah, okay, I'm right. Okay, so first up is The Promise of Space and Other Stories by James Patrick Kelly. This is a short story collection that came out in 2018, and I'm pretty sure I probably had to go at it relatively quickly after I picked it up, and I don't remember much about it, except that I think some of the stories that I did dip into, I didn't particularly care for. But it's been on my shelves ever since, and I really should have another go at it before I decide to possibly unhaul it. Another work of science fiction and fantasy that I want to do a bail redemption of, and this one has been about as long, or even longer, since I bailed on it, and that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I picked this up in I want to say late 2015 or early 2016, because I remember picking this up alongside the big omnibus edition of the Inheritance trilogy. And it'd been on my shelves for a while, and I remember taking it to the hospital during one of my mom's trips to the hospital in either mid 2017. I think I might have read it during that hospital trip in like the summer of 2017, or maybe the one in 2018. But like I had to go at it, and I didn't particularly get on with it. I didn't. I have a complicated reading relationship with N.K. Jemisin. I've not particularly cared for pretty much anything I've read by her, except for The City We Became, which I like, but I have some issues with. So I want to have another go at this before I again possibly decide to ultimately do an author-wide unhaul of N.K. Jemisin. And of course, I mean, the fifth season is her, and the Broken Earth trilogy is her most famous and highly regarded work. It did win the Hugo 3 times. Moving on to general fiction or literary fiction or mundane fiction or whatever you want to call largely realistic fiction. I have 3 that I want to get to. One, which has appeared in Bell Redemptions quite a few times already, but I want to have another go at it, and that is Wonderland, a novel by Stacey D'Erasmo. This is a novel about a musician who's past her prime and who's trying to make a comeback. I've had 2 goes at this previously. This was one of the books I selected for my America 20 project, my ill-fated attempt to read 20 works of what I thought was literary fiction. Did not turn out well at all. I think of what I eventually picked up, only 2 of them do I like, and the rest of them I largely bailed on. So I bailed on this twice already. The first time I didn't make it too far past the first chapter. The second time I did make it quite a bit further into the book, and I'm hoping that third time's the charm. The next 2 are ones that I bailed on this year. I'm pretty sure I haven't had a go at Wonderland this year. I think it was last year that I had a go at that one. My Bill redemption of. So first up is of the 2 that I've bailed on this year is The 5 Wounds by Kirstin Valdez Quade. This is a novel that is an expansion of a previous short story called The 5 Wounds. It's about a lazy, largely unemployed young man from a small town in New Mexico who, in order to try to eventually make something of himself, he agrees to participate in a crucifixion reenactment. Complicating matters is the appearance of his teenage daughter, who is herself pregnant, and she's run away from home after a fight with her mother and is seeking a place to live. All the while, the grandmother, who's very much the rock of the family, is off on vacation. I was looking forward to reading this novel. I quite enjoyed the short story that this spun out of, or is an expansion of. But I didn't get on with this novel the first time I read it because I want to say the daughter is rather unlikable. But I do want to have another go at it, so we will do some Bell Redemptions. I also want to have another go at The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki. This is a novel about a mother and son coming to terms with the death of her husband, his father, and the way the boy copes is by communicating with inanimate objects, primarily a book. I enjoyed what I read of this book up until a point where the book begins to narrate how the boy's parents met. And it featured a scene that I really did not get on with at all. But I think maybe forewarned is forearmed, and maybe having another go at it, I might be able to power through that annoying scene or rage-inducing scene. Excuse me. Moving on, I do have manga to give a Bell Redemption shot to. So I know for sure the first 2 days of December I want to read manga. And so I was thinking, well, is my December already getting too crowded or what? But then I hit on, okay, well, I did bail on a manga earlier this year, so give this a bell redemption too. So I'm going to have another go at Tokyo Revengers by Ken Wakui. This is a manga series about a young man who develops the ability to travel into the past for brief periods. And as he does so, he tries to change not only his future, but also his friends who have, at the time when he was younger, who've since gone on to horrible lives. I love the artwork, but I wasn't in love with the story. But I'm hoping maybe coming back to it a few months later, I will enjoy it a lot more. We shall see. But again, I do love the artwork. Um, so that's a lot of fiction in a manga. So I felt maybe, even though I'm right now in nonfiction November, and to be honest, it's going. I mean, I've enjoyed some of what I've read. I haven't enjoyed some of what I've read. And I might possibly be exhausted from nonfiction. We shall see. That's why I'm calling this a possibility. There's no guarantee that I actually will get to any of them, some of them or any of them. But hopefully. I do have two works of nonfiction of history that I bailed on at the beginning of this year that I would like to get to. So at the beginning of the year, I had the ill-fated idea to read no fiction in 2022. No fiction 2022. And the first 6 books I was going to read of no fiction 2022 were generated by the name tag TBR. Late last year, a tag called the name tag made the rounds of BookTube, and I decided to use that as TBR for the first 6 books I would read in 2022. It didn't exactly go as I had hoped. I think of the 6 books, I bailed on all but 2. And so I want to revisit 2 of the books that I bailed on. First up is Ravenna by Judith Herren. This is a history of medieval Ravenna. I think when I bailed on it, I did not particularly get on with the introduction. But hopefully I'll have a better luck with it this time. I also want to have another go at Lakota America by Pekka Hamalainen. This is a history of the Lakota peoples, and I remember enjoying it, but I think it just, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but it seems to, I think like my interest petered out. And I bailed on it. But hopefully having another go at it, I will enjoy it a lot more. So those 8 books are my bail redemption possibilities for December of 2022. And it's one of my ideas I could do for reading in December. Although speaking of the name tag TBR, I could possibly do some tag necromancy and bring back the tag the name tag for another TBR in December. Not for the first books I will be reading in 2023 because I already have a plan for that. And I'll talk a bit about that in my November book haul, which is definitely going to be the birthday month book haul of madness. So, any booktube, that's all I've got for today. I will be back tomorrow with weekly reads, which will be at the normal evening time rather than when I normally film during the rest of the work week. Because, well, I did finish a book yesterday. I'm going to start on a new one today, so I should be, and I want to get a bit more into it tomorrow. So, anyway, booktube, that's all I've got for today. So, thank you. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.